Why you know, you just know that there's something that isn't quite right. And you sense in your spirit, or I call it this way, you sense in your knower that you know there's something just a little left of center. And so you start making choices. Sometimes, how many of you understand that sometimes things are uprooted by the choices you make? Sometimes they're uprooted by life itself, and you didn't have any issue in that. You didn't have anything to do with it. I mean, life just happens to people. Okay, let me kind of push on a couple more things. And please, sometimes it is at the direction or the discretion of the purposes of God. The storm over the past week should serve as a reminder to all of us that nothing, including life, is permanent. After the storm passed, our first step is to survey the damage. Now, I had to survey it at home and at my mother's house and at the church. And that alone was not without difficulty. Let me explain. After the storm hit at the house and I saw limbs down and electricity's out and other things, how many know your garage door opener doesn't work if the electricity's out? Simple things you take for granted no longer function in the way that they're designed to function because you don't have, somebody say, power. Can I say in the Spirit there's some things that don't function when you don't have power? In the Spirit, when you don't have the power operating in your life, you can talk to God all you want to, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're praying the right thing or saying the right thing. Without the power of God in operation in your life, some things aren't going to function. You can claim it and name it and call it down and call it done. It ain't going to happen if you don't have a connection to the power source. Well, once we surveyed the damage, and I told my wife, I said, I need to get to the church and see how bad it is because I realized we had a storm. And so I left the driveway and I turned and started out my normal way. And as I got down the normal way, I couldn't get down the road because I got about partially down the road and there's a power line laying across the road. And I'm smart enough to know I ain't driving my car over a power line. It may be dead, but I ain't taking, excuse my grammar, I ain't taking no chances that baby's dead. So I looked down the road farther, and there's trees across my road, and I couldn't even get out my road. So I turn around and go back the back way. And as I go out the back way, I head toward Jerry and Barb's. I go back out the back way, and I turn and go across the road, and there's trees, limbs everywhere, and I'm going like this around the road to get out. And I'm hoping when I get to the other side that I'll be able to go back over the highway. And I finally make it down to the highway, and traffic is moving at a snail's pace. So I head toward the church here on 57. I get to the junction, and you can see how bad things are. I mean, trees and debris everywhere. And so I start in the church, and I get as far as Oak Hill. And when I get to Oak Hill, up here, there's a tree across the road. And there are people stopped, and they're trying to get the thing out of the road so people can get around because traffic's moving real slow. And so we kind of help clean that and get around it. And so I come this way, and I get as far as the top of the hill of Somerville, and the traffic's a dead stop because there's a tree across the road here at Somerville. And I'm looking, and I'm saying, I can't get to the church. What's today? So I turn around and go back home. I'll run over to my mother's and see what's going on there. I turn around and go back to Oak Hill. When I get to Oak Hill, from the time I went from there to here, a power line has came down, and it's across the highway, and now I can't get back to Oakland City. Now, that sounds funny now, but it wasn't too funny at the time. You know why it wasn't funny? Because I felt trapped. And I felt out of control. You know why? Because I was. I was out of control of the circumstances of the situation. You say, why are you talking to us like this? I want you to understand that there's some things that will happen in your life, and there's some things that will go on that you're completely out of control of. And the only thing you can do is put all those things in God's hands. Until you learn to put them in His hand, only then will you find out that He's in control and you're not. And so, making a long story short, I've lived around here most of my life, or been around here, so I knew a few country roads. And I got to thinking about, they stripping a coal mine over here outside of Oak Hill. If I turn around and go back up and I go across the Oak Road back toward Texas Eastern there, I don't have to go that far. I can cut across, and when I get across, I know there's where the turkey farm is being built. I think I can get through there because it's all flat. There shouldn't be any trees. If there are trees, they'd be little ones, and I might be able to handle myself. And so I'm thinking all these things going on. I would to God that we could look at our lives and look at what we're going through and think, there's a way for me to get through this. There's a way for me to get through to the other side. There's a way for me to make it. I may not feel like I can make it right now, but if I'll just think about it and use the intellect and listen to the Spirit of God, I can make it through whatever's been working on me if I'll just think about it. and trust God to help me. Well, make a long story short, I went the back way down past the turkey farm, came back out on the highway, and I've made it to Oakland City. But when I got to Oakland City, they had traffic backed up, so I couldn't get to my mom's house. And so as I'm trying to get to her house, I think, well, I'll try this side street. And I turn, and there's trees across that road. And I went down another road, and there's trees across that road. And finally, I saw one that I thought maybe I could get through. And I'm dragging limbs and everything else trying to get through to get to my mother's house. And when I finally get there, there's a lot of things that are down. Windows are broken out. Siding's got holes in it like this where the hail has hit it. And so she's fine, but the house is beat up. And how many know you can replace stuff? And I'm saying all this for a reason. And so when it was all said and done, I headed back home, and when I got up to the crossroad at her house, one of the cross streets, the fire department sitting there, and I happened to know the young man that was there, and he said, where you been? And I said, well, I've been to my mother's house just checking on her. And he said, well, I would recommend that you go back and get her and take her to your house. And I said, what's wrong? And he said, well, we got a gas leak right behind her house, and we're getting ready perhaps to even vacate this entire side of town. And I'm going, man, this is worse than I thought. So I go back and tell Mom, get you some clothes and something to sleep in where you're going to my house because they're getting ready to vacate this part of the city. So we do that, and we make it to the house. Finally, we make it. I couldn't go the normal way again. I'm saying that for a reason. Sometimes we get stuck into going the same way and doing the same thing. We want to go the normal way, and the normal way isn't working because God has closed it off, or something has happened to close it off, and we're still trying to do the same things that we've always done the way we've always done them and expecting things to never change. Can I tell you there's one thing in life that's going to happen? There will be change. And so what I'm pushing on, I want you to get this. The storm can help us see some things that we may not see otherwise. Well, she got to the house, and she's worried about, did she lock her door? And, that's normal, I guess, Did I lock my door? I don't think I locked my door. I went out and left my cell phone there. I left some money laying on the table. I don't think I locked my door. And I'm thinking, Mom, don't worry about that. And I didn't say this to her. I'm thinking, Mom, don't worry about that. It's just stuff. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Well, she finally talked to her brother, and they found out that they'd given an all clear. They got the gas leak stopped, and so it's maybe 9 o'clock at night. And she says, I want to go home. And I said, oh, really? Well, and I get that. I do get that. I understand that. I want to go. There's no, how many know there's a place of comfort that we all have? In the Spirit, there's also a place of comfort that we all have. But sometimes, even if it is a place of comfort, there are all kinds of things circling around us that cause the place of comfort not to be comfortable anymore. Yeah? And so, interesting, we went back, and I went down to 57 off of 64 and started down through Oakland City, and we got as far as the IGA and the National Guard and the sheriff, and all those people are out there. They're patrolling because basically they had the city shut down. Every entrance into the city was barricaded, and it was shut down. There was only one way in and one way out. And so I stopped and rolled down my window. He said, where'd you going? I said, I'm taking my mother home. He said, where's she live? So I told him where she lived. He said, okay, if you go with her, you stay there the night. I said, but I got a family. He said, you stay there the night, or she goes back with you, and you go back where you came from, and she spends the night with you. And so my mother, God love her heart, my mother says, well, I'm 83 years old. And please, you understand? Please. Now, you know what? He didn't have the heart to argue with her because she was 83 years old. And when she said that, he looked at me and said, just be careful. Now, you think he'd let me through there by myself? Ain't no way. It wasn't going to happen. See, sometime the company you keep, somebody hear me. The people you're with make a difference. The company you keep is important. And so we got her to the house, and we got her in the house, and I went back, and when I went back through the roadblock, they're there again, and he says, where you going? Different guy this time. Where you going? Where you been? I said, I'm going home. Where you live? I had to tell him where I've been and where I'm going. And I'm thinking, well, that's not a bad thing. Sometimes we just need, in the Spirit, we need God to do a check on us. Where you going? Where you been? Why have you been there? And why are you wanting to go there? Because that will help us bring things into proper balance in our lives if we can at least work our way through it. Now, there are a couple of things that, make a long story short, we made it through the night, no electricity. And you know what here, everybody listen to me close. You know what our greatest problem was? We had no electricity, and we didn't know what to do. We've got so many things to occupy us and preoccupy us, and so many things to do. And when you don't have power, can I just say the way I feel it? When you don't have the power of God in your life, you really don't know what to do. Yeah? A couple of things I want to talk about, and I'm going to hurry through this just so that I believe there are some points that we need to understand. In the Scripture, when it speaks about people, I'm going to be using a metaphor. People are referred to in the Scripture as trees. The planting of the Lord, so to speak. So when I say trees or I say people, I'm using those two words interchangeable as a metaphor. And so please just kind of stay with me. Number one thing I want to tell you. It is a prophetic picture of living life in the kingdom. When you think about the storm, not everything is going to be perfect and nothing's ever going to run smooth all the time, every time. Do you know that's true? There will be winds of change, and some things that look stable right now, tomorrow may not be stable. Some things that look strong are not going to stand when the storms come against them. And some big trees and some people that have stood the test of time for years are going to be brought down by what's coming in the future. And what I need to say to you, other things are going to be broken off. And that speaks to us of things being uprooted. The tree across over here in the cemetery where it actually uprooted, that happened all over the county when the storm came. And so what's that an indication of? It's an indication that there was a strong wind of some kind to uproot the tree. Did it mean the tree didn't have deep roots? Or did it mean the wind was so strong that it didn't matter how deep the roots were, it was going to come apart? It really doesn't matter. The problem is that when the winds of life come and the winds begin to blow in your life, either you need to be rooted, or if you are uprooted, then you need to know who your hope and your faith is in. Because if your hope and your faith is not in the Lord, you'll not be able to stand. And see, this is what I know. As long as you have deep roots, you'll produce good fruit. It's interesting because as we looked at all the damage, and please, there's some other trees over here that we have that probably did need to be cut down. They're leaning, and some of them have been stripped off on one side where the trees had walked them down. And so what you do is, somebody say, cut off the dead stuff. Yeah, come. What we ended up doing was cutting off all the dead things. And when you cut off the dead things and you prune it back, sooner or later, if you cut off the dead things, if there's still life and if there's still a root, it'll start producing new fruit. In the Spirit, we just need to cut off all the dead things. All the things that haven't been producing. All the things that haven't been causing us to grow and develop. And when we do, we'll find some new life. It's interesting. When the wind came, it actually scattered debris all over the parking lot. It was on the roof. It was in different places. And so it scattered it everywhere. And when it scattered it everywhere, it made it very difficult for the cleanup. In some instances, it made it impossible. I've got a tree hanging in my yard, and when it broke off, the top of it is probably 30 feet in the air. There is no way for me to get there to get that cut down. Okay? So I'm surveying the prospect, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I could get John to come over with his tractor, and he could pull that baby out of that tree. And I'm thinking, or I could pull him up in the air. I don't know. What? I bet you could do it, man. I bet you could do it. And so that's an inside story. You just have to ask John about it. I'm not going to tell you. And when we got to the church and we saw that things were as they were, and limbs and leaves and everything all over the parking lot, one of Jack's concerns, he kept telling me, was if we don't get this stuff up off the parking, he wasn't worried about the trees. He kept saying to me, if we don't get this stuff off the parking lot, I can't ever drag this and get it straightened out. And I'm going, but Jack, we got all this over here. He wasn't worried about that because he knew he could take care of that. You know what his greatest problem was? Was the little thing. The Bible said it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. You know what? We get so preoccupied sometimes by the little things that we overlook the big things. And sometimes we look at we overlook the big things and we see just the little things. And so I understood what he was saying, because with all those limbs and everything, if you're trying to drag rock, how many of you ain't going to drag rock very far and keep it very straight if you got all those limbs and leaves and everything else in there? Well, regardless, they got it all cleaned up. I think they did a phenomenal job. I love what Jack, I don't know how he did it. There's still some limbs and other stuff there, but